I am 39 years old and I almost did not make it to 20. So for me, turning 40 is not just a birthday, it is a miracle. My name is Toyosi Osinowo. Welcome to 30 to 40.
To find my ground. This is not a setback.
Okay, now that I have covered my background as a Muslim, my mom, my dad, let's talk a little bit about my early childhood and how it formed me to become who I was for many years. The truth is, I struggled a lot when it came to my self-worth. As you can only imagine, even me just sharing with you that my dad left, that was a major one that impacted how I saw myself. Now, the enemy is very tricky because he likes to sow seeds like that in any human's life at a very early age, as early as possible, because he knows once he does that, it can create a domino effect that would ultimately destroy the destiny of someone unless the Lord intervenes. Before I ever walked into a room, I always felt like I did not belong there. Someone taught me that. Before I ever shrank in any relationship I was in, I'd practiced it somewhere else first. Trauma does not start in a therapist's office. It starts in a zip code, in a household, in a moment that nobody had to write down, but your nervous system, your body remembers it perfectly. If I'm being honest, I grew up navigating a lot of things that a normal child should not have had to navigate. I became too aware of the complexities of life a little too early. And things happened around me and to me that left marks that I still could not even see were there until I was old enough to begin to process them and understand that no, this wasn't normal. Oh no, this is something you should have been exposed to as a child. I could not process why I could not look myself in the mirror and see myself as beautiful for a very long time until I was old enough to do so. And the truth is, my self-esteem wasn't just low. It was systematically trained to be what it was. I didn't just arrive there because somebody told me that. It became something that I had subconsciously embraced as my truth based on trauma after trauma after trauma, training my mind to come to that understanding as my truth. And yes, some of those things, came from words spoken by people. But if I'm being honest with you, a lot of that mindset came from experiences that had taught me that I was either too much, too loud, too rough around the edges, not good enough, and so on and so forth. I can name so many experiences that time is going to fail me to name here, but whether it was in the classroom, not being the most beautiful girl, or being told that I could not sing lead, or a family member trying to violate me and no one really holding them accountable, and having to still be around that person growing up through the years, or just feeling like I'm just not worthy because I was fatherless. All those experiences, or being in rooms and spaces of seeing kids that had their dads in the room, or just always knowing that there was always something missing in my life. Several experiences like that just shaped me to just accept this as my truth. But as I began my healing journey, which started about 2 years ago, something was required of me, which was for me to go back and rename every single lie those environments told me. I had to revisit those spaces, those encounters, those experiences back in my memory, and literally counter every single lie with the truth of the Word of God. That's how I delivered. That's how I got delivered from that. And I want you to know, whoever's watching this video, you were never born with a low self-esteem. Your self-worth was not born low. It was simply wounded, be it by words or by experiences that your nervous system still remembers. There's a clear difference between who you were made to be and who survival has taught you to become. Healing is not about fixing yourself. It's about rediscovering who God knew you to be before He formed you in your mother's womb. I want you to know that the woman God created before the world got to her is still in there somewhere, and she is worth going back for. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. I want you to drop this in the comments if this part of my story is resonating with you. My worth was not broken. It was simply wounded, and wounds can heal. Drop that in the comment below if this resonated with you. Most testimonies start off with, I walked into a church and I just felt something and I was transformed. Unfortunately, that is not what I have for you today. Or should I say, fortunately, that is not what I have for you today. That was not my story. My story was more of, I was planning to end it all and God showed up anyway. This is not a cleaned up story. It is the real deal. And that's because there's someone that is out there that is exactly where I was 22 years ago. I didn't get saved that day by, a church prayer of intercessors gathering around me or someone handing me a tract or a bulletin. I literally got saved by a God, the God, in a room where no one was there and no one was coming to get me. But he came and got me. Although it took me 3 years to fully surrender, even after this encounter. But this right here was the beginning of everything when it comes to my journey with the Lord. And I'm forever grateful for it. I know I already touched on this briefly at the beginning of this series, but I wanted to retouch on this again because I know there's somebody out there in a dark place right now that feels alone, that feels like nobody gets it, that may even have thoughts going through their mind that their loved ones are not even aware of, and you have the plan in place. But I'm here to tell you, there is a God that knows your deepest thoughts, your deepest pains, and can heal your deepest wounds if you would just let him in. If you would like for me to walk you on this journey, this is my offer to you. You don't have to even drop a comment. This time around, I am encouraging you to send me a direct message, be it via email, or you can also do that via my direct messages on Instagram as well, or even on Facebook. I would love to hear from you. And I want you to know you are precious to God and you matter. As I mentioned earlier, I had been crying out to God as early as 5 years old to know more about him. At the age of 18, I finally heard him for the first time audibly. At the age of 21, I finally surrendered onto him. I pretty much lived 3 years of knowing the truth, or at least having an idea of the truth, and still trying to do life my own way. If you've ever been in that place where you almost surrendered, there are no judgments here. I want you to come closer. This one's for you. Truth is, I really knew that the voice that saved me back in 2004 was the voice of the Lord. But I also found myself still having one foot in and one foot out. So I was still struggling with keeping my mom happy and still holding on to the identity that I had as a Muslim as well, with my other friends back at home, and also still trying to navigate that as well with coming to terms with the fact that God definitely was chasing after me. I remember specifically going home in that December and my mom was not too happy. So I was definitely torn between two worlds, even though I knew without a shadow of a doubt that that encounter I had that May was definitely the Lord. I was torn because I was still trying to navigate how I was going to tell my mother, for one. And also, I rationalized it by saying, there's several ways to God. We all serve the same God, and so on and so forth. Because it was just much easier, if I'm going to be honest with you. I really knew. And the truth is, knowing a thing and surrendering to that thing are completely two different addresses. They both are not the same thing, and they both do not reside in the same place. And for me, I was still struggling with surrendering. I try to keep one foot in and one foot out because it was just much easier, and also because I did not want to break my mom's heart. I psyched myself to just believing that there are several ways to get to God, and it's as long as I'm a good person and I'm living right, I should be okay. But as I said, fast forward to December 2024, the Lord literally talked to me again, and this time he did it through a person. because I had gone home that Christmas break. My sister had found out that I was going to church service on Sundays when I was home while my mom was going to work, and she could not wait to tell my mom what I was up to, my older sister. And I remember my mom being extremely disappointed in me. Those were the exact words she used. Because if you recall, as I mentioned earlier in the series, I was that one person that was so fervent in my faith by choice. So much so that I even made some special requests from my mom. So she just could not reconcile with how I arrived at this place. And that broke my heart. It caused a lot of conflict at the house, as you can imagine. And so I went back to college in January, definitely very heartbroken, very conflicted, very torn. And I remember sitting in chapel that day at Baylor University, just so confused and also torn. And then I just said to God, God, I know you're real. I know that you exist. If God, if you are Allah, reveal yourself to me. If you're Jesus, reveal yourself to me. I just want to do what is right before you. And I remember walking out of chapel, and as I was walking out, a guy named Jeremy chased after me, whom I'd not seen in a while. He literally chased after me and said, "Are you okay?" "I'm okay. What do you mean?" He's like, "No, you're not. The Lord told me to come and tell you that he loves you." Now, Jeremy's a Christian. And I just broke down and shared my story and my struggles that I was going through in that season with him, especially back at home. And he encouraged me, and I went on my merry way. And that still wasn't enough. I'll be honest with you. I was still 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Up until my junior year at Baylor University, then the Lord wrecked a lot of things. A lot of pillars and anchors I held onto, he literally wrecked them. The guy that I was dating during that time that I thought I was probably going to spend the rest of my life with, decided to tell me that, no, this is not going to work. I'm not the one for you. I'm going in a different direction. Friends that I thought were sisters that I lived with broke my heart in ways that I cannot even describe. I had a hard time even with my grades for the first time. I was struggling. I was struggling with, paying my bills. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And also, I had a hard time going back home because there was already so much tension with this whole me going to church situation with my mom. And so I found myself extremely sick, bedridden, just laying in that bed, high fever, could barely speak. And I heard the same voice that spoke to me in May 2004. That same voice is now speaking to me again in May of 2007. 3 years later, that voice came back to me again and said, "You need to leave this place or you will die." What? I'm in my third year of college. 1 more year to graduate, and now I'm being told to leave. Now, again, just the same way I could not rationalize the voice the first time I heard it, the same thing happened. I immediately found some supernatural strength in me. I could not explain it, and I started packing my stuff. It was as though I was never sick. I packed my stuff and filled my car to the brim and drove all the way from Waco, Texas, back home to Houston, Texas, with just my side mirrors. No rear view mirrors because the back of my car was filled with so much stuff. I literally drove 3.5 hours back home that way, not knowing what my next step was going to be. Ultimately, the Lord led me to the city of Denton, Texas in August 2007. And to cut the long story short, after being there for another 6 months, that December of 2007, I had another encounter with the Lord where he showed me crystal clear. And this time around, that was my no turning back moment where I knew without a shadow of a doubt that he was real. I'm laying in my bed. Again, things are going left in Denton. I lost my job. My so-called car got stolen. I'm just paraphrasing now because of time. And pretty much the Lord caught my attention. I remember staying in my bed that day saying, this is just tiring. God, I'm tired. And a light that I can't even explain. I've never experienced a light so bright like that came into my room. It was so bright that I had to keep my eyes closed. And all I could say was, God, if this is really you, then give me a peace about this presence. But if this is not of you, please take this away. And of course, the light remained. And in that moment, I knew it was the Lord. And fast forward to maybe like 40 minutes into that moment, I also found my car. Again, I'm paraphrasing because of time. Through my friend Ife, who came to get me that day. My car was parked on the road. The car that we had reported as stolen and missing was recovered with nothing missing in the car. And in that moment, I just knew that, listen, this voice that's been calling you for the past how many years needs you to fully commit to him. And that was my no going back moment. I went to the Voice of Jesus in Parish, the Voice of Jesus Parish in Denton, Texas, and just give my life to the Lord. And ever since then, I've never looked back. That was the beginning of it all. For 3 years, I ran from him, but I also wanted the peace without the process. And the truth is, that was not possible. That's one thing I learned in this journey, was that in order for me to experience the peace that my heart was seeking for so long, I also had to commit myself to the process. I wanted the peace without the process. I wanted the transformation without the cost. But all I got in return was just exhaustion. I exhausted all my options and came to the end of myself before I finally yielded to him. The day I finally said yes to him in totality, my life changed drastically. I'm not saying it was overnight, but that was literally the beginning of the transformation or the change and shift in the trajectory of my life. The lesson I want you to take away from this is that partial surrender is full exhaustion. You cannot build a new life if you continue to keep your hands on the old one. I want to also be clear. God is not asking for perfection, but he is asking for your all. He is asking for everything. He wants access to all parts of you, the good, the bad, the ugly. The cost of surrender will always feel like loss until you come to the point of realizing what you're gaining. And every day that you are delaying the surrender is a day longer that you're leaving freedom on the table. Be honest with me. Are you currently in a place right now where you are 1 foot in, 1 foot out? Are you in the gap right now of not knowing how to fully surrender onto him? Leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Or if you even feel comfortable sending me a direct message, I'll also love to hear from you. Let's talk further about it. There's no shame, because naming it is the first step in the right direction. Ever since I fully surrendered in totality to the Lord, I can really say that though my life has not been perfect, and yes, I have faced several hills and valleys, and I'm still in the thick of some, one thing I have come to understand and experience is something that cannot be taken away from me, because it's tangible and it's mine to hold on to, which is that those that really walk with the Lord, he really gives his peace unto them. Peace that passes all understanding is really our portion. And I always say this to people all the time, that when it comes to the faith walk, you cannot force people into it. You cannot sell it. You cannot manufacture it. What we have now in most situations, and when it comes to the church space, is people creating an euphoric experience, and they want it to yield long-lasting, tangible impacts on lives, and that's not possible. Only an encounter can do that. An encounter is something that is personal. An encounter is something that becomes personable to each individual, to where they have something to hold on to, even in those raining seasons of life. And that's how I have found my anchor thus far. We're going to stop here for now. I'll be back next week to share more with you on the journey from 30 to 40. If this video has blessed you in any way, or if you've had some moments in this video that resonated with you, I want you to drop me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Let's chat, let's dialogue. And of course, please subscribe, share with someone that you know this will impact as well. I want to continue to grow this community. And I'm walking in obedience, and I'm trusting that as I do so, the Lord will continue to water it and bring the right people that are meant to be connected in this space to me and to him ultimately. And like I always say, I don't have all the answers. I don't know it all, but I'm glad another one that does, and that's Christ Jesus, and you can know him too. Until next time on 30 to 40, remain anchored.